what are other challenges? You know, you talked about diet being one of the biggest ones. What are some other issues that are very common that you see, other than sleep and the stress at school? What also do you find are things that come up a lot in ADHD or autistic patients?
Those are really the main ones. I would
Mm-hmm.
say the diet is huge. The school lunches are huge. Our culture is fast paced and stressful. I would say that that's huge. Kids kids need a simple approach. It's not complicated, but we make it complicated because our food is, not good. We watch too many screens. So I guess screens are another thing that comes up,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the boys with
Right.
ADHD. And yeah, that's a huge issue. The dopamine hits that those fast paced shows or TikTok videos or YouTube kid videos, anything really fast paced gets the brain used to that. And then the kids don't want to read books. It's too slow and boring.
Right.
You train yourself to need a lot of input, and ADHD kids
Mm-hmm.
are susceptible to that. Their brains love that. They love those dopamine hits, but it's not good for them.
Right. And I find it's almost like working with a child. You know, we don't want to tell them, oh, you can't have that toy or you can't have that piece of candy, because if you say that, they want it more. And so I try to take the approach, okay, let's find positive distractions, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're always going to have these inputs. We can't live without, you know, there's going to be academic pressure, there's going to be the competition in sports, there's going to be social media and gaming and you know, the challenges with sleep, with academics, but how can we bring in, you know, mindfulness, journaling, you know, at bedtime, ways to calm the brain. I know in our family, it's hiking, just being out in nature, how grounding that is. Because very few people can just sit still and meditate, but people
Right.
don't understand that when you have, I have some of the, well, ADHD, and I call it the monkey brain when I just need to get outside and calm my mind. So I think if we can continue to focus on those things that really bring balance to those inputs. And I call them the supportive inputs to balance out the depleting inputs.
Right.
And depending on genetics, you know, some people are more sensitive to those inputs and that those supportive ones are more important. I think also in working with you, there were also concerns of you had said iron is commonly deficient, but also zinc. I think zinc we overlook. You see this a lot as well as a common deficiency.
That's where the testing comes in. So I do blood testing and I can see what their iron levels are. And most of the kids are low on iron. And I'm assuming that is because of their diets where people don't eat as much red meat anymore. The kids eat, more simple carbs. And so some of them are vegetarian even. So low iron comes up all the time. But I see that I can't necessarily tell that till I get their blood testing unless I know they're a vegetarian and I can see their diet where it doesn't contain enough iron. But they're often low in iron and zinc would be the two things. Everyone does not eat enough fish, and our fish supply is contaminated anyway, so you really don't want to eat fish every day. So, but that means the omega-3s are low. And so omega is another one that's low.
So some additional supplements that I like to recommend, I think, would be magnesium, because there are a lot of it's common to have a magnesium deficiency, especially for ADHD
Yes.
kiddos. and a lot of that does have to do with, soil quality today, and food sources, but also just because of that, a general multivitamin,
Right.
good quality multivitamin to make sure they're getting all those good micronutrients and active B vitamins and zinc and some iron, and vitamin D is a big one, and so many more. So,
Right.
yeah,
I
just to
agree.
meet their basic needs. Yeah. So we're always on the same page. It's like we're singing
Right.
to the choir. Another question I had was going back to the gut symptoms. I notice a lot of times there's constipation as an issue with a lot of my clients. What would you find in autism, ADHD? Is that a common
It's a
symptom?
very, very common symptom. And I really insist that everybody address that. So we add fiber, make sure kids are drinking enough fluids, fermented foods, and then magnesium. Magnesium
Right.
citrate is usually what I use. So I want the kids to be having a bowel movement every day. And I just explain to them this is, if you don't get rid of what your body doesn't need, it will reabsorb some of the bad stuff. And so
Right.
you have to go every day. That just, without saying, that's part of health. And I think we were talking about, like, do I see then improvement in the ADHD? And I do many things at the same time. And so I can't always, and everyone gets better because we're working on, every part of their life that will make them healthier and able to function better. And so they all get better, but I can't always identify each separate thing that made them better. If it's big things that I'm working on, like say someone has a mold exposure or their gut needs a lot more work, I do those things sequentially. So I won't put someone on, for instance, 20 supplements, to start with at the same time. So that's why, because we do our basics and then we just proceed from there, depending on what what the patient needs or is able to do. So the first step is
Right.
always your basics and the nutrients, the nutrient deficiencies, your diet, your sleep, your stress, your screens. And then from there, we might do a gut test and work more on the
Mhm.
microbiome. We,
Right. It's called like clearing the muddy water, right? Really knowing all of those many, many basic things that have an impact on our mental health and the function of our body, I think is great. And so, do you look at, I know genetically, some people are more predisposed, absolutely. What would you say what is the percent of cause, would you say, how much of it is genetic?
so there is an 80% heritability um, with ADHD. So there is
It's
not
high.
one gene. But it's high, and that's what I see in my practice because I have siblings that have ADHD.
Mhm.
The parents have ADHD, so it's a combination of genes. But we
Right.
don't we don't even know all the genes that are involved,
Right,
and
right. It's so early, right? And it's
and
the studying of genetics, there's so much more to learn.
right.
Yeah.
There are some genomic tests that can start to kind of sort that out, and they're generally not covered by insurance and they're very expensive, but they can point the way as to, like, if you have dopamine dysregulation, you need more norepinephrine than dopamine.
Hmm.
Your receptors maybe don't work. So there's that can all be genetic, and you can look at that, and that can help you
Right.
decide which supplements, in addition to your basic, make sure you don't have deficiencies, as
Hmm.
well as I will look at the traits of people and be able to kind of ascertain what is going on in their brain or combine the traits with the blood testing and then try to address their brain chemicals with supplements, but a genetic test will kind of take it to the next level.
Yeah, kind of empower a person to understand their system better, versus feeling like, oh, I have an 80% chance, so I'm in trouble. I'm just going to have ADHD. More see it as something to empower you so you know how to address the imbalances to have improvements in genetic expression. Do you find the same high percentage in autism, or is that more cloudy, how much genetics plays a role with autism?
I think what I'm hearing from the research is that it's about the same, that there is, that again, there's no specific gene. So and the research is very early on. There's a lot of companies studying, trying to identify genes, but it's multifactorial, and that's
I mean, not to interject, but I'm so sorry, but I get excited about this because I can say for myself, who has ADHD, it is like a combination of genes. Like I have the MTHFR gene, I have the COMT gene, dysregulated, SOD2. So, my ability to detox is not as sufficient. So yes, it's like a combination of things. And then, of course, all MTHFR that affects neurotransmitter production and how the microbiome can support that. So we could go on and on. But yeah, all of these things, it's a synergistic effect. And I think people want like one answer, one protocol, but that's why there isn't, because each person is so individual. Everyone has different genetics. And so we really need, and as you've found in your practice, I'm sure it's each person is unique and how you work with them.
I kind of go as far as patients want to go. So like you mentioned, detox. Well, even the step one with the supplements is helping detox and kick out heavy metals. But you can go further with that and actually test and treat. But I don't do that until everything else is in good shape.